Welcome back to the Super Life Podcast. Today's guest is an absolute powerhouse, Lachlan Stuart. He's an athlete, author, and founder of the Men That Can Project, a movement dedicated to empowering men to build mental and physical resilience. Through his workshops, programs, and podcasts, Lachlan helps men create more muscle, momentum, meaning, and mentorship in their lives. Right now, he's in the middle of something truly incredible. On January 1st, Lachlan kicked off an epic challenge, running 58 marathons in 58 days across 58 states. Obviously doubled up on a few to get his 58, to raise $100,000 for the Mental Awareness Foundation. His mission? To show men everywhere that no matter how lost or doubtful they feel, they can rise above the challenges. His own journey from self-doubt and escapism to self-mastery makes him a perfect person to lead this charge. Before we dive in, I have to acknowledge the audio quality. This was recorded in an old studio that I had, and from moving around, we couldn't find the real audio. So the engineers did a great job in resurrecting what we had to preserve it, because we want you to hear this podcast and to listen to this mission that Lachlan provides in this episode. It is worth every second. So let's jump in with the unstoppable Lachlan Stuart.
In starting off, what do you believe are the keys to having a super life? You can answer it how you want it, personally, professionally, however, but what do you believe are the keys for people to live a super life?
It's a great question to open with. For me, I look at life as seasons. I felt when I was a little bit younger, I had to have it all figured out, and I stressed out when I didn't. I didn't know what I wanted, what a good life looked like. And now for me, even when a lot of people that I get mentored by talk about, you need to have this life's vision. Like, what do you want that to look like? And in the beginning, it was super materialistic. I wanted the cars. I wanted to be able to travel. And what I've now realized through travel and reconnecting with family is values to me is based around like connection is an important thing. So that has allowed me to understand that through different seasons of life, some people who were there may not be there in the future as I evolve and grow, and vice versa. But the key component there is I need to have connection. I don't want to be lonely and isolated, so I need to work on that. The other one is health, and that can be physically, mentally, and emotionally, and that to me is paramount because everything stems from that. And as I get older, I've listened to a lot of your stuff. It's like longevity and how can you maximize and optimize your body. And when I was in my 20s, it was all about performance as an athlete. And then as I've gotten older, I still want to push my physical limits, but I'm also then thinking about how can I be here when I'm 70, 80 and still have a great quality of life? Because I don't believe that I want to accumulate all this wealth and be 90 years old, but since I was 60, I've been shuffling and not being able to move properly. Then I've got health, connection, freedom. So freedom for me is choice. So once again, that's where the working for myself and being in control of my finances was a really important thing. When I first met my wife, I was coming from a background as a tradie and a tradesman, and I didn't enjoy that. I enjoyed what we were speaking about before. It's like you get to see the progress, but the work culture didn't really suit me, and I didn't like not being in control of my time or how much I earn. So then going, okay, well, I want to be in control of that. What does that look like? And I've sort of done various things over the years to put myself in the position I am now, but it's also as a man, I wanted to be a present father for when that time comes. So 10 years ago was when I said I have to do whatever it takes to be in control of my time so that when I had children, I can be there and be as present as I need to. So ultimately, a supercharged life is thinking about how I can essentially do it for tomorrow, do something today to be better for tomorrow, but also then think about the consequences or benefits of that in 10, 15 years time.
Yeah, I love that. Because it's like, on the one hand, it's all the moment. Everything is.
Yep.
And at the same time, we get the linear experience of what I seed today grows tomorrow, right? So that has to play into, you can't just sit here and meditate all day and love and
Yep.
truly love the moments, right? And that's an art. Truly loving the moments, but at the same time, I'm investing heavily right now into certain future outcomes that I would like to see. And
It's a juggling act, and I don't think we ever get it right. I feel there's a lot of pressure to have that right. Like a common thing, and I'm sure you hear it as well. People say, "I want to be present," but we're either reflecting on the past, and if you do that too long, you can end up, depressed or sad because maybe your life hasn't panned out how you want it. But you can also reflect and use the experiences to grow and work out where you want to be better or what you enjoyed or what you didn't enjoy to create a future. But in that moment, that like moments like this for me is so special. As much as I've been traveling the last couple of weeks and you think about the road trips to America, it gets very tiresome. But when it's all said and done, it's like that was so fun going through all these little towns, getting to meet people, and now I'm sitting here and had a cool conversation. And this is life. Like life happens and it's built 1 second at a time. So even though at any given moment things can go wrong or may not turn out how you want, it's like the next action that I take can get me back on track and it can make the day great again.
100%. What do you think, viewing and working with people, what do you think inhibits people the most to unleash their own super love?
I would love to say the mind, because I do believe the mind is one of the most powerful things, but from my personal experience, it's environment. And when you look at environment, it's the people that you surround yourself or the physical location. I use a thought that if I wanted to be the world's best surfer and I was living in the middle of Australia, it's going to be a little bit it's probably ridiculous. Yeah, it's not going to happen unless you can tow behind a car or something, is it? But I recognize for myself, even when I was sort of climbing out of a bit of a rut, as much as I wanted, I believe deep down that I had more to give, I would always go back to what my buddies were doing. And at the time, we was drinking a lot of booze and partying and stuff, which was fun. But every Sunday morning or whatever morning it was, I'd wake up and I'd go, there's got to be more to life. And that was when I realized, when I was very fortunate, I had a mate that I was playing rugby with. He invited me to a personal development event. And there was something, I'd never knew these things existed, but there was something about this guy that I was like, I need to try something different. And so I went along to this event. And when I went to this event, Darin, I realized I saw all these people who were just like curious about life and they were excited about things that were available to them. They were watching people transformations on stages. And I was sitting there and I felt this feeling at this new level of excitement that I'd never had or hadn't had for a very long time. And I remember watching a guy, his name was Ben Kelly, and he was a bricklayer, and I really related to his story. He's talking about how he was going to take his wife at one point because it was just the same day on repeat, have
Literally
bricks. Yeah, literally laid bricks and didn't see a great future for himself. And I'm sitting here going, that's me. In fact, I'm swinging a hammer. I'm not laying bricks. I'm swinging a hammer. And I was inspired by him to see the fact that he was up there inspiring other people. And it was in that moment I remember messaging my mum and be like, I'm going to inspire people and speak on stages around the world. And I was 23 at the time. And what I then went back to my environment, and a week later, I'd fallen back into the same bad habits I had up until that point. And very fortunately, my buddy gave me a bit of a kick up the ass. And he said, you need to change your environment. Like, you need to start hanging around higher achievers. The problem was, Darin, that high achievers didn't want to hang out with a guy like me at that point in my life. I didn't add value through the way that I communicated. I didn't have any runs on the board. So I started listening to podcasts and shifting the internal dialogue through people that I didn't have access to, which then started changing how I thought about things. But I kept going back to the alcohol. And it was in that moment that I committed to fitness challenges. So I did, I think it was 6 back-to-back fitness challenges, which was my excuse to go, I can't drink because I'm working on my health. And that was probably one of the most game-changing things.
Oh, a nice hack.
It is, yeah.
Because it's ultimately you're addicted on some level to the alcohol and the repetitive nature of whatever that partying thing is.
Yeah.
And to just throw yourself into the middle of something that you knew wasn't going to happen if you continued to drink. It's a great way to break the cycle.
Yeah, and it was challenging to do, but I do believe from all the people that I speak to or work with, and I'm sure you've seen this in throughout your career, that when you put yourself around people who want the same things as you naturally start picking up on these cues, the way that they think, and you start adopting those beliefs, which is super impactful.
It's something interesting the way that I want to unpack it a little bit in what you said, because it's not as linear as, drop all your friends and go find other ones, right? Right? You actually have to, and that's what I'm picking up, is like you actually had to start doing something different in order for anything to start shifting. That's right. So those things, that is inherently, you don't know it at the time, maybe, that when you're doing that, you might be losing people, right? What I find is, because I didn't grok it at the time, but throwing yourself in the middle of something that maybe you, on one hand, you have no business doing.
Yeah.
And maybe that environment was going to tell you the same thing that you have no business doing. Because that environment, those people are invested in you literally being the same. And so when you do something outside of that and you start doing something different that you're maybe passionate about or curious about, inherently, it puts a choice back to them that they don't even really realize. Either they have to step up to still be in your life, and or simultaneously you have to be willing to let go of them. And that's a big thing. And at the same time, you're talking about community. So you're losing a community, at the same time curating a potential for new. And it doesn't necessarily, it's not linear. That's why I'm saying it, because the willingness to let go of that is quite and can be uncomfortable in that gray zone of pursuing, right? And I just want to make that distinction, because everyone wants to put all this shit in boxes, right? And it's like, it's not. I think my career, in retrospect and kind of recapitulating my life, I've done that a bunch of times, where I'm willing to go, I'm feeling something, I'm going for it. And you have to be willing to kind of let go of all of the past in that pursuit.
Definitely. And I loved how you expanded on that, because it's not linear, and it's definitely uncomfortable. It's like that crab in the bucket analogy, where you're trying to jump out and the rest are trying to keep you in.
Right.
And I experienced that. And the biggest lesson that I learned was I was so focused on making money in 2014 because I had no money. I thought that was going to be the thing that would change my life, right, and put me on the map, essentially. And when I recognized, some of my mates are builders, they're farmers, and amazing people, like really amazing people, but I was just like, they don't want what I want. Therefore, there's no room for them in my life. And I cut them out. I still have Facebook memories pop up where I say, you've been friends with Johnny for 6 years. I'm like, I've known him since I was 3. But I deleted him off Facebook because I went hardcore. And what I recognized after about 4 years is I was so lonely, because you talk about this gray patch, right, like where you're trying to figure out who you are, where you belong. But there's something that's, I love about having those lifelong relationships of people who have been there. As much as they may not want the lifestyle that I want, they still appreciate or respect me as an individual, and I'd cut them out. And so I had to go back with my tail between my legs, be like, guys, I got it wrong. Like, I'm
Never corrected.
yeah. I appreciate our relationships, and you add so much value to my life in this way. And I really want to, invest in the relationships. And I think, to your point around what could bring supercharged life, like money and success is one aspect, right? Right. Deep relationships that maybe don't have anything to do with your career, even though they do sort of cross over, is extremely important. So as you do start to find different networks or areas of your life to help you achieve certain things, they really are all connected, because that's you as an individual. You're not just Luffy, the coach or the athlete, or you're not just the filmmaker or documentary maker. You've got so many aspects that make you. And that's one of the challenging things, is you don't always have to let go of everything in order to get to where you want to go.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah. So you're working with men. You're working with humans. what do you see as some of, because I certainly have some points of views and things I see. What do you think's inhibiting men right now? It's a big question.
It's a very big question.
But from your perspective, what do you think's challenging for men right now?
I think, and I don't want to say it widely when I say like I feel men are definitely under attack, and if you jump on social media, it's like where the root cause of every problem. And I like to view things from both sides, but I also work with a lot of incredible people, and I know a lot of incredible men, and I speak to a lot of women who tell me how brilliant their partners, children, etc. From a male's perspective. But then you jump on the internet, it's like a man has now done this, meaning all men are this way. And a real life example is, I could be walking to the gym at say 5:30 in the morning, and there could be a lady 30 meters in front of me, and subconsciously I'm thinking, I hope I don't intimidate her or make her feel uncomfortable. I'm going to cross to the other side of the road. And so one of the biggest issues is, or that I'm experiencing, and a lot of men that I work with are experiencing, is we just don't know how to be a man without being intimidated. And for a lot of us, it's like, how do we be a strong man without, crossing that line of being intimidating? How do we lead our families? How do we lead ourselves without, crossing those lines, those below the line? So it's unique, I would say, to every situation. But what I would think about is, people want to be led. I want to lead myself, and I would believe that many people know the difference between right or wrong. When you're doing things for a greater good because you believe that this is going to help mankind, it's going to help the safety of your environment or the community around you, what would those actions then look like? And with the power of social media, I feel that we're trying to make everyone live the same way with the same set of rules. And if you go back to like tribalism and stuff, every little tribe had its own hierarchies and beliefs and set of rules around what made them thrive. And I think if we can stop projecting things out, we can start coming back, hey, this is my family nucleus, but this is then the next layer, which is our community. How does that operate? How can we help that thrive without tearing apart other I guess communities or families? Looking at that greater good.
Totally. Yeah, it's these are delicate conversations, but at the same time, I don't think any good comes by way of, you can't heal a person or society by dealing with their projections. And so if someone is hurting and they project outward going, you need to do X, Y, and Z in order for me to feel safe emotionally. Now, listen, like you said, if that person is physically intimidating, purposefully causing harm, that's a completely different situation, right? But if someone is, how do I even describe it? I feel like the society is overcorrected, right? And it's this place where you need to do, say, be, wear all of what I believe you need to be.
Yes.
In order for me to feel safe, in order for me to be okay. And the thing that I think is lost, and you kind of alluded to in the beginning, was that the power of ourselves, the power of our internal state, power of our mind, taking responsibility for our mental, emotional, our responses to life, the person in the mirror has to build that space from within, has to heal the wounds, or else it's just the wound becomes the projector becomes the validator, and now you're just validating your own view of the world, and your view of the world is the wound at which you're viewing the world through.
Yep.
And that's a really, really toxic way to live life.
And to your point, like a lot of people are exactly living that way. And the moment that you're think about it. I don't like being told what to do, and I'm sure you don't like being told, and anyone else is. No one does. And so if we're trying to tell people to sort of kneel to our projections of what we think is the right way to live, you're going to have a lot of unhappy people, and you're either going to isolate yourself because no one wants to be around you. And we're seeing that a lot now, and being over here as opposed to Australia, it's crazy. Like some of the conversations that I witness and how people go to communicate about things. But if we take full responsibility, it's like, why am I feeling unsafe in this situation? Why am I feeling offended by that? Why am I not feeling like I fit in here? We then can start unpacking that. And if you don't have an answer to that, it's not about saying, I don't know, because to me, that's the lazy man's option. Is when I say I don't know, I'm just not prepared to dive into it enough. But I need to understand things to the point of which I can build a framework or give myself something to do. And it may not always be the right thing. I'd say 80% of the time it's not. But when you try something different, like we were talking about earlier, you're going to give yourself some feedback. It's like, is by doing something different, does that help me build my confidence? Does that change my view on things? Does that make me recognize I have more internal power than I first, realized? Because I think a lot of people, to the point like that, if we look outwards of that, one of the biggest challenges I feel men are facing is like how we're being positioned in the media and stuff. But from an internal point of view, it's our self-esteem and the way that we doubt ourselves. And there's so many incredible people who, probably deserve to be on podcasts or have their own shows or be doing incredible things, but they allow the doubt to control them. And that's the reason why they aren't taking action on things. There's a lot of brilliant people who would sit back and go, I should be in that position. I've been guilty of that, of course. But it's the fear of rejection, the fear of failure, or doubting my ability to get things done that hold people back. And if we don't learn to control that, essentially doubting the doubt, because if you just listen to the doubt, nothing's going to change. You're going to be in the same exact situation. But what if you just said, I'm going to challenge the doubt, and worst case, I fail. But best case is I start changing my life. And brick by brick, and why bricklayer analogy is so good, is like brick by brick, you're building confidence and you're stacking evidence as to why you are there than you maybe first thought. And it's why we see some people who walk around with their shoulders and their eyes on facing the ground and their shoulders rolled in, and they just don't seem confident, and they aren't. And then there's people who could walk through a door and command attention because they understand the value that they have. They understand that if they find themselves in a challenging situation, they will be able to do whatever is required in order to stand up in that moment. And I feel we are lacking a lot of that inside moment. If you look at the landscape in a lot of areas, people are confused, and no one really is standing, or not no one, but there's a lot of people who don't stand for anything. And that's where we need to go back to.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to this, because I believe everyone has a sovereign right to have, to be strong, to be confident in themselves. And it is our job, I think, and part of life, to uncover the untruths, uncover that which isn't true about ourselves, to liberate it, so that we can then be the soul, spirit, divine expression, human evolution that we are. Everybody. I believe everyone has the opportunity of that. The challenge is it's a warrior's path. It is a warrior's path just to be in this body and to live this life. It's beautiful and it's hard at the same time, right? And I think that what we're hinting at here is the lack of self-responsibility is a really bad plague that's going on, and the ownership of self, and do your best and to liberate the emotional sadness, doubt, anger, fear, judgment, all of that stuff. Because if that's all you're holding on to, and you're unwilling to see where you are responding out of those emotions, it's as good as your life's going to be. And the projector of life is that we literally are all in our own little matrix. You know what I mean? So I'm viewing my life to the limits to which I can. So if I'm willing to learn about myself, to seek more of the truth, to hear a different point of view without reaction, to take in other information, to stretch myself beyond my knowable mind, like these, I think, are the tentacles for an extraordinary life. And at the same time, hard, because it's and I don't mean hard like it's forever hard. I mean facing your fears, facing where you're weak, where you're scared, where you're angry and justified. Like, holy shit, right? We all do it. We all will do it. We're all gonna do it. But it's just a matter of how quickly we can get off of that trip, right? When we can see it, are we willing to go, oh man, if you're in a relationship of any kind, you're in that point where like they're saying something, sometimes they say something, it's full of shit and it's their rejection. And other times they say something and you're like going, oh, they just nailed me. And you can defend it. Yep. And you probably will for a little bit, but deep down inside, you're like, I just nailed this thing that I have in the dark closet. Yep. And now what am I going to do? But
you got to accept it.
Yeah. And then it's like, that's the opportunity. Because if I am believing that about me, and now that other person, hopefully a loved one, is seeing that, that's the opportunity, reflecting that back. Now that's the opportunity. That's the warrior shit. Now it's like, okay, do I want to leg that around? Because in truth, none of it is you. It's just the idea that you think it is. And you've identified with it. And you've learned that that's how you are. So this shit gets really, there's no easy path to this stuff, but
to your point, like it's simple in theory, but it becomes complex when you start doing that. You do start embarking on that journey. It would be very easy, and people listen to both of us, and they would be like, okay, if I just do exactly what they have done, Darin and Lachlan have done, then I'll get a similar result, and that's not guaranteed. Everyone's journey is completely different, as you said. We're looking at life with a different lens. And that acceptance piece that you were touching on, that is so, so hard, because you have to look at yourself raw and go, and I've made some bad choices. I've hurt people. I've, said things that I maybe disagree with now, but in the moment I did, and I have to own that. Yeah. And I had to do, the reason why I started my podcast was so that I could just start communicating things. And it was all of a sudden I felt like I was taking this weight vest off. So you trained with a weight vest the other day, and I was like, damn, I take this weight vest off, and emotionally I could just breathe again. Because like, I'm not perfect, and I've made a lot of mistakes, as we all have, but I allowed those mistakes to control me for so long. I defined who I was. It meant that I couldn't be successful. It meant I couldn't be in a loving marriage. It meant that I couldn't, allow people to see the real me. And when you don't accept the faults, you will never allow yourself to truly be seen. And it's why so many people in this connected era where we have social media, still feel so lonely, because we're all trying to fit into a mold. It's like, what's going to get me the most likes? What's going to look great on social media? Or how are people, I don't want to ruffle feathers. But internally, I'm at war, because this is not who I really am. Like, I started learning drums when I was 13, but I also was a rugby guy. So musicians got bullied, so I stopped playing drums back in the day, and that was part of who I was. So I had this internal conflict where I was building a persona around who I thought I needed to be to stand out and fit in, as opposed to the guy that I really wanted to be. So I stopped exploring what I was interested in, and as a result of not exploring what you're interested in, I became more and more confused. Right. And then the noise in my head just got louder and louder.
Right. Isn't that interesting how we have this little hint of this little touch of like, I'm interested in that. And then the moment we say no, and we're saying no, in your instance, you're saying no because of a stereotype, or because you're doing this, you can't do that.
Yes.
Because you're this person, you can't be that person, which is just like at the time, it makes sense in our tiny little minds. But as a being, it makes no sense. Was it for nothing, right? And then we cut off. Then we're literally carving our own selves up and shoving ourselves into a box and realizing and wondering, why the hell am I in this box? I don't feel comfortable. I'm depressed. I'm not myself. And then we project it on our partners or project it on friends. Hey, do this. I'm not myself. So therefore, I'm triggered more. So now, if you would just change and be perfect in the way I want you to be, I'm going to be okay because you're not going to scratch this uncomfortable, which is just bonkers anyway, because you're already there.
Yep.
Right? So it's this myriad mire of just this. I mean, it's just fascinating to me, and I want to get into the physical stuff a little bit. But like, we're just running around as little broken kids, projecting pain, projecting an idea of ourselves, which is almost always a lie, right? Because Lachlan or Darin, it's not even who we are. Literally, it's literally just a name. Like it cannot describe us. It's my resume can't even come close to describing who I am.
And it's like it's crazy. And this is one of the great things about even just chatting with you and off air, just like in the brief chat that we had. It's like I learned some more things about you that maybe you don't get to see online or whatever. And you would never piece those together. And we're doing that with ourselves. And I think the biggest challenge for people, and the reason why I think it's important to test yourself and do hard things, and hard things doesn't always need to be physical. We watch a lot of that, or I watch a lot of that online, but it could be having a tough conversations with your spouse or your friends to pull them into light or to share what you're going through. That could be tough. Whatever it is, you then start that journey. You start moving the needle around. Who actually am I? And why does that matter to me? That didn't matter to me 10 years ago. It matters to me now. So we start understanding that evolution happens. And if we aren't happy, we just need to take more responsibility, as you said, around what outcomes do I think that I want. No one really knows what they want. We have an idea, but you may get there. And I've had it happen. I'm sure you have. And you're like, oh, that wasn't what I thought I was going to get out of that. But let's go again. Just, literally.
Yeah. I think a goal is it's a spark. It's a feeble little spark, but enough to move us. Hopefully, right? Set your goal and go for it, because inevitably it's going to change. It's going to reveal something. It's going to...
It's Jesse, he hit it when he started talking about the Light's resume. And there's a great book as well by Bronnie Ware that said 5 Regrets of the Dying, or the 5 Truths of the Dying. And a lot of it came back there was nothing materialistic. It's like, I wish I kept in contact with my friends. I wish I didn't work so hard. I wish I allowed myself to be happy. Things like that. And I'm like, okay, we're learning from a massive cohort of people who are further down the track than I am, and this is what's important. So why would I not listen to that advice? And then when we talk about keeping in contact with friends, how do I do that? What works well for me? What does happiness look like for me? Do things that put a smile on your face, or maybe challenge you and you get to look back at building a house or potting a plant where you're like, I'm so proud that I did that. And you get to then tell the stories. Part of the reason why I moved over to the US when I had most of my business back in Australia was I wanted to support my wife's career. I wanted to be able to have these, chapters in my life where we traveled the US together, played shows and met cool people. And it's like, when we're 70 or we have children, we can go back on and go, we did this over the, we traced our dreams. That's what, it wasn't easy. We failed. Maybe it didn't work out, but we still gave it a crack. I don't want to turn around to my kids that I don't even have yet, but I think this is this delayed gratification, say, chase dreams when I didn't chase mine. And upon chasing your dreams, as we mentioned to, the journey to get there is going to be wild for everyone. You're going to deal with some of the childhood stuff, the trauma, the doubt, people ridiculing you. But if you want it badly enough, you'll figure out how to sort of navigate that and overcome that, and that then becomes another chapter in your book. Or you can just settle. And for me, it's like I didn't want to settle, and I don't believe that anyone really does. People are just missing either a little bit of confidence, a little bit of know-how, or the right people. And if you can start incrementally making changes through different actions, you're going to start building momentum.
Yeah, because none of those things are guaranteed. Nothing. You literally just got to fling yourself in there with as much confidence as you can squeeze out of a dry sponge. And just, you know what I mean? Seriously, I don't know where that came from for me, because it didn't come from my family. It didn't come from and then it just becomes. It becomes I failed a bunch. I got some success. You do it. This whole thing becomes a confidence inside yourself.
Do you believe, so from people watching you from the outside looking, you've had a lot of success, do you still believe success is guaranteed for you moving forth?
That's an interesting question, because on the one hand, it's not coming from my mind. Like, success is a lot broader. Like, it's not, yeah, and do I want a lot of money? Yeah, because I know where it's going. Yeah, like I have tons of projects that are life altering for the planet.
Yep.
And I'm not even like flippantly saying that. Like, I know where the money will go, and we are currently working on tons of projects, right? So, I mean, on the one hand, it's funny to say, have I had success? Sure. And I also know I've had a boatload of failures. So to answer your question, do I know I will have success? 100%. I don't know what that definition of success will be. I don't know the outcome. I'm starting with an idea, and I'm not stopping. Like, if I'm dialed on a knowing and a curiosity and a confidence, no one's stopping me. Now it's going to change and turn and twist, and it's going to evolve how it needs to. So within that surrender, I'm successful. Within that, my only job is to take that step on the little bit that I understand as to the reason to take that step. That's the only thing I know. So I'm taking the step, and I will inevitably be met by the God, universe, all my angels. I will be met there. 1,000,000,000%. I know that at my core. So my job is to go, okay, I think it's that, so I'm going for it. And I'm taking a bunch of action. So I know that. And the success is yet to be written, but it's already written in the step that I take out that door.
I love that. That is the certainty that you have behind that. And I also love the fact that you said, I think that's what I want. Because to our point, so we don't know, but you're 100% or 1,000,000,000% committed to achieving that. And quite often that's all we need. So you'll figure out, you'll find the right people, you'll overcome the adversity, and people will see you when you achieve. People go, oh, he's just lucky or whatever. But you also would have moments of doubt.
Million.
But once again, you know where you need to go, and you know that you can't stop until you get there. I really hope that people listening, I know everyone listening here knows they want more and knows that deep down they can do more. And quite often, to your point, it's just like, let's just do one thing. What is the smallest possible step that I could take right now to start moving in the right direction? That is it.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what you're going to.
It's essentially that, because I was a man that couldn't for so long. I believe everyone has that within them. And I'm the man that can be a great father or a great husband, a great businessman, whatever it is in the context of your life or what you want. That's all it is.
Yeah.
But it's just being a man of your word and doing what you know you need to do in order to live up to that.
So, dude, let's get into this a little bit because men, the thing that's not being acknowledged. What's the startling statistics or things that you see going on with men?
Well, there's data around like even workplace happiness is like 73% of people are unhappy in their job. If you've got people who are spending 38 plus hours a week doing something they don't like, in turn, their life is not going to be happy because you're spending the majority of your time thinking that way, acting that way, and behaving that way.
Yeah. Now you go back to that environment thing, right? So it's huge. Yeah. So you're in a thing that you don't like, and you're doing it all the time around probably a bunch of people that you don't resonate with.
Correct.
So that's a bad compounding interest.
Literally, yeah. Your daily deposits around like, is my life good? No. Okay, why not? Most people don't think any further. I go to a job that I don't like. I'm not getting paid enough. The work environment's negative. And then you take that home. And then it affects your marriage or whatever else you have going in your external life. And it's so sad. Like the statistics in America is staggering when I was looking at the statistics around people who take their own lives. It is incredibly high here, like 49,000 people last year.
And what is it, men over women? It's a real...
It's 75%, so like 3 to
1.
Yeah, 3 out of 4 suicides are male. And the sad thing, like...
And how much a year?
In America, it was around 49,000 last year. In Australia, I think it was 3,000. Obviously, the populations is just significantly different. But it's still staggering that people get to a point where life is too painful to continue on, completely hopeless, that they lose that. And I've been around it. The first time I experienced or was made aware of suicide, a guy that I used to run track with took his own life when I was 2004, so I was 14, he would have been 13. Signed with a rugby league team, so as a developed Australian champion for 100 and 200 meters, so he had everything. And a relationship breakdown at 13. I didn't even know suicide was a thing. And no one spoke about it. He was on the front page of our local paper, and I couldn't cry about it because I'm a man, I'm a young man. So I remember keeping that paper and keeping the clipping under my bed, and I pull it out and cry over it in my room, just being like, what has just happened? And it's happened a lot more over years. My brother's experienced mental health. I've had a point where I haven't wanted to live. I didn't want to take my life, but I was partying enough to a point where I was like, if I don't wake up, that's fine. And it's sad to think that someone's son or someone's daughter or someone's brother, father gets to that position where they feel helpless. And to me, it's coming back to the things that are important to me is like the health. If you're physically healthy, like you're going to, they're starting to recognize within the data and mental illness and mental health stuff that it's not just mental illness that's taking people's lives. It's mental health, which means we're looking at finances now, we're looking at relationships, we're looking at physical health that impact all of these things. So if we're now made aware of this, why are we not drilling it in from a young age to go, hey, some great habits that we should all prioritize is daily exercise, is your sleep, is communicating effectively and honestly. These things literally could save lives. And what happens every time, and one of the gifts that I believe I have is making people feel really comfortable really quickly to the point where they catch themselves in a conversation going, I've never spoken about that to anyone before. And to me, I'm just sitting there thinking, well, isn't it interesting? Because I don't believe I do anything special. I just ask curious questions, and I feel like I maybe give off an energy where you are with space. Yeah, I had a space to be there. And that one conversation could completely transform our life. And I don't believe you need degrees or anything like that in order to do that. You just need to really have care and compassion for people. And going back to the data, a lot of people, and I was, I guess, naive to think that I could stop and eradicate suicide when I first started. And I know a good buddy of mine, Sam Wett, who started a charity in Australia called the Limb Foundation. We're like, we're going to eradicate suicide. It's never going to happen again under our watch. But the truth is, we're never going to be able to stop it. But we can control what we can control in our environment. So a lot of people, we have Is Are You Okay a charity over here? We have a big day back home called Are You Okay Day, which is the mental health campaign, which I think is awesome. It shines light on it, but it's one day a year. And it's one day a year you'll see people post a tile or text a buddy and say, "Are you okay?" And my belief is that, as we were talking about before, it's like data deposits. In order for me to actually open up to you, you need to be there 355 days of the year, not just the one day where everyone's reminding you to do it. I'm not going to open up to people that I don't feel like I have a relationship with. And I've seen it time and time again where people want to be world changers, world leaders, world beaters and have a global message, but they forget about the message at home first. And that's where we need to start, so create change. So for going back to the whole suicide thing, is the amount of people, and I'm sure you may people will resonate with where they go, I didn't know if Johnny was even unhappy or Sarah was unhappy. And it's like, well, if you've got people in your life right now that maybe you haven't caught up with, set a reminder in your phone to shoot them a message or give a phone call once a week or once a month to just, let people know that you're there, because we're so busy. We're so disconnected. We need to work on that.
Well, and it's just, I catch myself too, get a feeling about someone. And then next thing you know, you're doing your 12 other things. Literally tonight, my ex-wife, I just texted her this other day. We got an amazing relationship. But I was having a feeling. And it was the second day I'm getting that feeling. And I reached out to her and said, "Hey, what's going on?" She goes, I'm okay. It's those types of things, of friends. And it's so easy to blow off the subtleties that play in the background because our minds are so busy, our to-do lists are so heavy, our obligations are so monumental.
Yes.
And we've created that. And at the same time, it's almost like it's delicate power behind all of it. Like it's like nature, spirit, like whatever is behind here running all the time. Like there's information that we blow off all the time, right? And these subtle kind of things, and like you're saying, just opening up a space of consciousness. I mean, I remember studying psychology in my master's program, and there's this guy, Carl Rogers. All his technique was like PhDs, all of this stuff, all his technique. He just listened attentively.
Yep.
With I'm not giving you any advice. I'm going to listen. And inevitably, his patients had more insight than all the other traditional models.
Wow.
Because he created the space to literally be there, listen, and allow them to discover their own truth. Right?
So powerful.
So, but we're just like,
we don't have a time. It's journaling. Do you journal? I do, yeah. It's one of the most game-changing things I've ever done, and for a long time I had a stigma around the kind of people that did that. And then we're going back to the point, it's like, well, let me just try it. And it helped me, and I know for a lot of people, reorder their thoughts and really understand yourself on a whole different level, to the point where it's one of the most enjoyable parts of my day. And it's helped me communicate better. It's helped me understand my wants, needs, and desires, and even then be able to talk to people about them. Because quite often I did an exercise, I still do it at workshops, where for guys, and generally we'll have a lot of blue collar guys coming in who are like I was, where you struggle to communicate and you don't like putting yourself out there. And I'm like, righto, gentlemen, activity today is to jump me on Facebook Live, and you're going to talk about something that you're passionate about. Like, what are you interested in? That's all. Anyway, I'm like, you got 10 minutes, out you go. Anyway, this guy comes back in. He'd been working on the mines in the mining circuit for about 5 years. Tattoos, really tough bloke, intimidating guy. Just come back in, so I effing hate you, mate. You just made me embarrass myself in front of everyone on social media. I'm like, what in here? He's like, I stumbled and I got stuck. I was like, let me watch it in your phone here. And I looked back and I was like, mate, this is incredible. Like, what are you worried about? He's like, I didn't want to say that there, or I didn't want to say that, or I swore there. And I'm like, mate, this is perfect because this is feedback. This is you. And if you don't like parts of that message or that story, use it as feedback and be better. It's different writing in a journal as opposed to doing it in front of people because you fear the judgment. When you're writing in a book and you know that you're there and am I going to see it, you can do what you want. But it's then within that feedback where you go, this is how I can speak better. This is maybe the word choice that I would prefer to use. This is what I would feel comfortable sharing. And when you go back to what we were saying, it's like that is how you understand yourself. You may not be proud. When I started my podcast, Mum's just like, you swear way too much. I was like, fair, but that's who I am. And then the more I started editing it and recognizing that I do probably swear a little bit much, that it then became the journey of let's stop swearing. Like, what do I really mean when I curse all the time? What is that? What am I trying to articulate? And it took me down a whole nother rabbit hole where I was like, I need to tell stories better or be able to express my emotions. And what does that mean? And it's helped me in coaching, in marriage, and in so many other areas. But I would have not gotten that feedback had I not had the podcast or started filming myself to go, I don't like that about myself. Let's get better. And it goes full circle to what we were talking about around the acceptance piece, where it's like, if you don't accept those things, you'll never put yourself in a position to improve it.
But then you looked, and there's jewels within some of that stuff. So what's acted for you now? I know you're running. You've got some events. So you lining up some more stuff, and also talk to me about the men's programs and stuff.
So I guess the essential reason why I started the men's program was I found myself at a point where I was full of doubt. I didn't know what I wanted from my life, and I didn't have great mentors. A lot of my mentors were like rugby coaches, like sport coaches, but I didn't have access to people who had made a lot of money, had great, relationships with their families and things like that. And that's what I was craving because I knew I had lacked in that area, and I didn't want to just, be a guy who made money. And I remember I was in Austria one day with my wife's band, and at this point I'd been documenting on Instagram my growth journey, books that I was reading, things that I was doing, learning about, and people progressively started asking more and more questions. And I was going to get a pint and a palm in this pub, and this guy's asked me a question. I can't remember it. I wish I could, but it triggered something inside of me to go, when I get back to Brisbane, I'm going to start a men's group, and it's open to anyone, and this is how it's going to be. And I made that decision, and I wrote a 5-page speech around how it was going to go, set up the chairs, and when I rolled in, I'm like, we don't need this speech. Like, let's just see what happens. And the intention was just like, you guys all came here for a reason based off what I was posting on Instagram. And my intention for inviting you here is you're all different backgrounds, walks of life, have different challenges, different wants and desires. And I want to learn about that because some of you are going to teach me things that may come into my life in the future. Some of you are going to be going through things that maybe I've experienced and I can share perspective, but this is an open space. And the rule is we don't tell people what to do, we listen. And if you have been through that experience, you can feel free to share that and see what happens. And that just blew up. Really glad we had doctors, lawyers, guys who just come out of school, bricklayers, like all walks of life, but we connected, and it was so incredible. But what I recognized was the same men kept coming back and they weren't doing anything. So we were communicating, which was awesome. And I said, why aren't these men changing? It started weighing on me then. And my life started getting quite stressful. And that's when I started going, okay, I'm going to do that neolinguistic programming and all of these things to help move the needle for people. And we started running workshops and events. And what I realized was from that, there's not only men doubting themselves, they're lacking purpose and direction and connection, but they aren't living life. Like they're going to work, then they're going home, putting the kids to bed, and living that same day on repeat. So I started going, I'm going to start creating experiences that blend, finding purpose and taking different actions, but getting you out in the bush or giving you, experiences to reconnect and redefine what you want from your life. And that's what we've been doing for the last couple of years. And obviously COVID happened, shut everything down. So as a business owner, I still had to survive. I had to pivot. And that's when we went online. And one of the most beautiful things about that, Darin, was as much as it took away the face-to-face, it allowed people who lived out in the bush or all over the world to start being part of this. And I recognize it as a place for online communities as much as there is for the face-to-face connection. And that's what we've been doing ever since, is helping men redefine and refine their purpose for life and build the confidence to take responsibility and create that. And that's what we've been doing ever since. And in the process, I guess, I lost myself and I became more about helping everyone else, that I lost what I was passionate about. I do love what I do from a career standpoint, but as a individual, I've always loved sports. I've always loved challenging myself. And in 2018, I wasn't doing much, and I was like, I'm quite unhappy. And I retired from rugby maybe 5 years ago, prior to that. And I was like, I need to challenge myself. I need to really push myself. So I started doing 12-hour challenges. I just got like ran CrossFit exercises and triathlons and did public speaking at the end of it. And we put these challenges on, and year after year, more and more people were like, can we get involved? Like, I want to do that. And we started building this community, and men and women got involved, but it was incredible watching them do one event lifting or maybe run their first 5 kilometers and seeing the shift in their confidence and their self-esteem after doing that. And obviously for me, the event kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. To 2022, I rode 30 marathons in 30 days. Yeah, which was pretty cool. But my wife rode her first marathon with no training. I had a guy who was 55 years old. He rode every day with me. Started just doing 5 kilometers. And then by the end of it, he rode 2 marathons, a couple of half marathons. And it's changed his life. Like, I still talk to him to this day. And the next challenge for me was, I'm over in the States. I want to see the country. So, and I, interviewed a guy, James Lawrence, the Iron Cowboy. Oh, yeah. Incredible guy. His story inspired me. So for those who are familiar with James, he did 50 Ironman in 50 days across 50 states. And more recently, he did 101 in 101 days with bonkers. Incredible. And I was sitting there going, wow, that's inspiring. Wonder if I could do something similar. I love challenging myself. It's a great way to grow, and it's a great way to prove or get out of the noise in my head. And I was like, to my wife, do you reckon I could do 50 in 50 days? She's like, well, yeah, but it's been done. And I was like, yeah. What about if I do Australia, USA, and New Zealand consecutively? She's like, well, check it. Hasn't been done. And the flight and the logistics is quite challenging. But then I realized New Zealand has 16 states. And I was like, don't think I can do another 16. So let's just go America and Australia. And the reason behind that is obviously to challenge myself, do something that no one's done, but then bring more people along. So in different communities, whether it's people running their first 500 meters, half marathon, whatever it is, I want people to prove to themselves that they can do more than they first thought possible. Because as soon as you see it, and it's like an instant thing you can do in under a couple of hours, it shifts everything in your life. Because you'll go, I remember that one time where I didn't think I could run 5 kilometers and I did it. Maybe I can have this tough conversation. I've done these things before.
Right. Yeah, it builds a different kind of muscle.
Yep. I got to ask, I think it was a couple of days ago, I go, like, what do you feel the biggest challenge is going to be on the 58 marathons? And
So it's 58, but in both countries.
yeah, so
Half and half, or
no, I'm doing all 50 states of America. So the challenge is the logistics. I believe physically I can do it, but the logistics, we start in Alaska on the 21st of January. And part of the beauty is like I'm doing it with my brother-in-law. He's driving and he's helping me stay on top of all of the things. As we're going to need to see some incredible places throughout America. So some of the capital cities, the national parks, but then also some just completely regional towns. But it's going to be an awesome chapter in my life and a story to tell. But then we're going from fishing in Phoenix, going to Hawaii, doing Hawaii, which it makes it possible to, with the time zone, to then land in Sydney and fly around Australia and do the marathons that way. And the biggest eye-opening thing is I thought that doing something like that, people would be like, yeah, we're going to get behind that straight away. And it's been one of the biggest challenges, is going from, not only do I have to train a lot and get the logistics, I'm also trying to raise funds for a charity, but also then make sure that I can keep my feet on the road through sponsorships and stuff. And I was like, 58 marathons, people think it's a cool story, but they don't. So it's then like, now I'm on the phone to brands and people, and you're getting constantly rejected. I think it brings it full circle, because for me personally, trying to achieve this, while to some people it doesn't mean anything, to me it means everything. And you go through the same experience of whether you're trying to get your dream job or get married or whatever it is. As I am to this, you're going to experience roadblocks. Things aren't going to turn out the way that you wanted to. You're going to have plenty of moments of doubt, probably going to get injured at some point, and people won't believe you. But that's life. And what you said before is like, I 1000% believe I can do it, and I 1000% know why I'm going to do it and who I'm trying to inspire. There'll be people who don't get inspired by it, and that's completely okay. But I'm looking for the group of people that do get inspired by that.
Yeah, what's your motivation? What is your biggest why as to doing it?
It's to keep proving myself. For a long time, I've worked with a lot of psychologists over the years to help navigate myself, and I felt like for a long time it was bad to just want to keep proving myself. But I just love seeing what I'm capable of, because I wake up and I doubt myself every day. Even coming to have a conversation with you, Darin, I was like, why am I going on this podcast? Like, what do I have to offer? And they're like, well, doubt the doubt you're here for a reason. So just keep doing that. And if I don't say yes to these things, and obviously aligning with things that I enjoy, I love running, I love traveling, I love experiencing adversity. So that's, and obviously inspired by the Iron Cowboy, I was like, that seems like a pretty cool challenge. I'd love to do that and see what I'm capable of. And Mike Posner, a guy who I get a lot of inspiration from, incredible dude. Like, I've watched his transformation over the years. I've followed him since before he's gone on this incredible journey. And he just talks about like his walk across America. Like, it just was one of the most spiritual experiences. And the more I challenge myself, the more spiritual I become, because you have these moments of like, you're out of body. And I believe that has been making me a better man. It's made me a better leader. It's made me a better husband. And it's made me build the relationship to myself. So why would I stop doing that? And that's, I guess, the biggest why, to see what I'm capable of.
Well, the cool thing is you're transmuting all of that too, and you're challenging yourself. And it's like, if we're not moving forward, we're moving backwards, right? Because if we're literally, that's life. Like look at nature. If you're not charging, taking care of yourself, being aware, you'll get eaten, die. Yeah, like, so it's gnarly, like, right? So if you're not like going, I'm inspired just to be inspired. But the cool thing about you've already transmuted it to then give the multitude of experience and energy to other people, to create a platform for other people to find their things that they're inspired. You actually don't even need a reason other than I just have a desire to do it. You don't know, again, that door is cracked open. You're opening the door. You're walking through it. It's impossible to know the journey. The 58 marathons you do is going to give you so much invaluable currency in levels and in ways that's impossible to measure right now.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's what I'm excited about. And once again, it's not guaranteed to finish it.
Right.
I'm everything that I'm aware of that I can control, I'm making sure that I'm controlling. But there's, we're doing it in winter. Who knows what's going to happen now? But it is resonate with a certain group of people who like the way that I do things, to help them go, hey, maybe I can do more. Maybe life doesn't stop where I'm currently at. It can be so much more beautiful. And that journey starts with a single step. And like I was saying before, it's built every single day. It's not about waiting for the end of the 6-week challenge or the 12-week challenge or when you get the nice house. It's like every day you have an opportunity to show up and be happy, show up and be curious, put in the reps in the gym, or be sad. That's life.
Yeah, big time. And that's if that's the thing that we can support people doing, because the curveballs are coming. It's how the resilience, if we can increase resiliency, the ability to respond more and more for people. We have less and less people wanting to commit suicide and leave this planet prematurely. And it's like, if we can instill more hope, possibility, and get people to take action, because the action is met with something else, it's a very important thing. And like, so if we can continue to build this other world where you take responsibility, you inspire yourself through what you feel is right, and then through that, doing no harm to others, you actually can help people to do better for themselves, and that's a very important thing. As you relate and as you help men relate to themselves better, be a better version of themselves, how are you seeing, and what are you seeing women suffering from through the lens of men's struggling? Like, what does that look like for you?
For a lot of it, like the messages that I'll have with wives or partners or people that we work with is their ability to step up and lead. Like
The men's ability.
the men's ability to step up and lead, which allows them,
Like, they want that.
yeah, they want that. They want to feel more secure and safe, because quite often, and I know for myself, like my wife just got stuck with another dude who was looking for a mother figure in his life. And Amy didn't like that. My wife didn't like that, having to take care of me, deal with my mood swings and everything like that.
That was you prior.
Yeah. It was shocking. And it got to the point, let me see it now, it's where like women genuinely are loving the fact that they have a strong partner that can lead, but also one that can be empathetic and listen when that's also needed. Because I think it's like we're overcorrect either way. We're either hard asses that don't communicate it, it's my way or the highway, or it's like we're a shell of a man where we are a pushover, we're just constantly trying to please. And you got to fight. And once again, every relationship's different, like in terms of the polarity, but a lot of the men that sort of gravitate to how I communicate and do things, we're looking to be leaders. We're looking to be confident in our decisions that we make, not only for ourselves, but for our households and our communities. And there's something that is attractive about that for their partners, where it's like my husband or my partner, he knows what he wants and he's supportive, but I'm also proud to walk side by side. And there's something to me that, and it could be traditional, it could be where I grew up, but I do believe that we're the breadwinners. I do believe that we need to create that safe space in the household and have our partners feeling secure. Because I remember when Amy's been with me throughout my whole, I guess, awakening, if that's what we want to call it, and she stood by me, she supported me, she helped me even when I had no money become an Uber driver. And I just remember going, if I had $1,000 in my bank account, I've made it. And she stood by me and she was literally mothering me. Like, if I'm being honest, she was mothering. And that's not a fun position to be in as a man.
Right.
I did not enjoy that at all.
I gotta change.
Yeah. I had to change that. And that's what I guess, and maybe even it ties into the eternal drive behind why I do what I do, is like, I just want to keep growing as an individual, pushing myself, but growing my network, growing my income, growing my brand, growing the impact that I have, because that's going to then transfer into how I can support at home and support the people that I care about, right? And that, for a lot of men, once again, it brings it back full circle, where it's like, it's very confusing, because how do we understand the difference between leadership and also being controlling? Because it's like no one wants to be the controlling partner either. So
there's a lot of respects.
yeah.
There's a respect both ways that has to go. And listen, I think there's a argument to say, like, traditionally you can say, okay, we need to be the breadwinners, but like my ex-wife, Liza Coop, she's an incredible actress, and again, a dear friend of mine, and just a badass, beautiful.
Yeah.
Even she made her own money. I made my own money, and it was cool. Like, we had a solid. So I'm all for, like, women can make whatever amounts of money they want if that's what they want.
Yep.
So go for it, because I am never been intimidated by that. Like, I'm doing my thing.
Yeah.
But men that aren't clear, that is, I could see where it gets wonky, because I've carried, when we were married, I carried her purse in between, like, media stuff, and I'm just the dude, right? But I was cool with it, because I was clear. Luckily, I was clear in what I was doing. So I was happy to like go, girl.
Yeah.
Right. And even you, like I see that in you. You're like, you're changed your life so your wife can kick some ass in the career that she, and that's amazing. And also having that backup, she's making money, she's being successful, she's doing her thing. And at the same time, we're here because I've had to catch, you have to catch them every once in a while. But that's the strength.
Yep.
But also like she caught you at a certain period of time, right? And it's like, and then because if that polarity gets off, if it's too flipped the other way, it's gonna destroy the relationship anyway.
Definitely.
So I just wanted to say that because I think everyone's different, and it's not money to control. It's just to create that safety, that nest for really everyone to flourish.
Definitely.
You know,
I think that's a great point to double click on there, where it's like Amy still out earns me. Like her career is huge, which is awesome, and it's inspired me, it gave me the confidence once again, because I'm watching this girl who has chased the dream to be a pop star, and traveled the world and had a successful career for 10, 12 years, and I'm like, wow, she started in Brisbane, she just defied what everyone said she could do and just went after it. And that for me is so inspirational. And within a relationship, it's definitely not about control. But we have our own money, but then we also have collective money. And nothing inspires me more than watching Amy on stage doing what she likes doing. Like, I love that. And the fact that I know that gives her purpose, that gives her meaning, and we don't depend on each other to be validated. It's like we support each other, but it's like I have my meaning and purpose around yours, how I want to contribute and what I want to experience, and vice versa. She could have very easily, when I said, hey, I'm going away for 2 months to run around America and Australia while you're touring, she could have very easily said, I need you. She's like, you need to do that? Go do that. Like, I'll check in. So I think that's one of the most beautiful things about relationships, but to what we've spoken about a lot here is like we need to take responsibility and ownership for who we are as individuals and what we want, because that just then amplifies everything else that we get.
Totally. Yeah. If I'm an insecure guy, you don't even know you're insecure, right? If you're not on purpose, if you're not fulfilled, if you're not going for your great buddy of mine, Jeff Patterson, wrote a book called the Big Thing Effect. It's like goals, but there's a thing. All of us, not just men, but there's a thing. There's a big thing. And if you're not tapped into the big thing, all these freaking goals, you're not going to be fulfilled. So I know as men, speaking here because we're two men, if I'm not dialed into that, I know I'm no good. I'm no good for myself. I'm no good for the world. I spend my journaling, my mornings are constantly tuning into that constantly, because I know I am rattled. I don't feel good in my own skin, and God forbid people are around me, right? Because I have an energy when I'm not tuned in, it's going in the wrong direction, right? So that's really important. Again, we go back to that. It's really the self-responsibility, respect, care, love, gratitude, all of that stuff, and then build that foundation of trust.
I like to, within that, because work, as we've said a number of times, like work seems to take a lot of time for a lot of people, and everything else is like it is the last bit of my energy. For me, I break my that into me, which is like the self-care me time, them, which is relationships, friends, family, and then work. There's plenty of areas, but I know that if I'm not giving time to myself, I'm, to your point, not very good for other people. And then as well, if I'm not giving time to my friends and families, they're probably not going to be there in 5 years' time. And the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing is so that I can have rich and incredible experiences with the people that I love and care about most. And then work, most of us know what we need to do at work. So to simply put, if I'm looking at a day, it's like, even if it's 5 minutes some days, I'll do that. If I've got the luxury of having a little bit more time, I'll do that. And then, prioritizing that throughout the week.
Yeah, it's important to do that. So What are you up to now? When's the running start?
January 21st. So I've still got about 5 months.
How could people follow, support? Are you gonna have a pay on your page? And
Yeah, I'll have it all on the website. So one thing I've not been good at, and I'm probably inspired by you with all the work that you do, is documenting that journey. Like Jim Rohn talks about the things that you leave behind to have memories, and used to be photographs. Now we can document. So I'm trying to document as much of the lead up to, which is the training, the nutrition, injuries, maybe. All of that sort of stuff. But then the flip side of like raising funds for the Mental Awareness Foundation, everything like that.
I love that.
So we'll see.
Well, people want to know, because again, your people just will see the results, but like the preparation of how intense it is to do anything. But certainly from that physical standpoint, it's certainly good to drop down the fourth wall and not just show the result, but show like all of the sacrifice it takes to do something.
Yeah. I'm grateful to be in a position where I had the opportunity to do that. Once again, it's a unique experience and a story that many people won't be able to tell, so I'm excited about it.
And to plug your wife, where is she touring?
Yeah, so
We'll find her.
touring. So if you check out Ben Shepherd, you'd probably know their song Geronimo. He was a 2014 was monster over the years. So nice. New album just came out as well. And her last name, Shepherd. So for Amy Shepherd, she has a solo career, but Shepherd. Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure as well. And you've asked some unique questions that I've never been asked before, so I've enjoyed that.
It's a shared experience, and I love it, and especially to talk to another guy who's conscious, aware, and wanting to do good in the world. And it's fun to create a healthy platform to do that, and to also try to take a stab at creating a little more stability in this world.
Definitely.
Yeah. Thanks, brother.
Thank you.